Uriella thought she'd finally escape the misery from Moon Seojun, her toxic ex, but some demons don't knock, they hunt. And Moon Seojun was coming for everything she loved. Right in front of her stood Moon Seojun as his fingers tightened around the gun, the cold metal an extension of his fury. As he aimed at Yichen, his smirk twisted into something monstrous. With a low, dangerous voice, he whispered, "If I can't have her, then nobody will." And then the loud sound from a pulled trigger follows. What happens when love is no longer enough to stop a man from destroying everything in his path? This isn't just a love triangle, it's a storm of obsession, betrayal, and a love so toxic dangerous it could kill. Sit tight, because this story doesn't just tug at your heart, it shatters it. Hangzhou in spring was a mosaic of soft winds, rustling sakura blossoms, and streets full of quiet haste. But inside her chest, there was only stillness, a heavy, aching stillness that had nothing to do with the season. Uriella Zulieka, 27, a brown-skinned Nigerian, walked briskly down the polished marble hallway of the building that housed Luminance Tech. She hadn't planned to come here today. She didn't wear her favorite perfume. She didn't curl her hair like she usually did when visiting Moon Seojun at work. But something in her gut, the kind that warns of a heart about to be broken, pulled her here anyway. And there it was. The room wasn't even locked. The door was cracked open, a slit wide enough to betray everything. Moon Seojun. Shirt half off. Lips pressed against a woman in a red dress, tight, glossy, and forgettable. Uriella stood frozen. He looked up. Their eyes met. He didn't flinch. He didn't hide. Instead, he frowned and snapped, "You shouldn't be here. Go home. I'll talk to you later." Later. She blinked. Her throat was dry. Her legs obeyed before her mind could catch up. She turned and walked away. Her heels clicked against the tiles like a countdown to something breaking. She didn't cry until she stepped into the elevator. The doors slid shut behind her with a dull hiss, and as soon as they did, the first sob broke loose, ugly and raw. She leaned against the mirrored wall, her shoulders trembling. The pain ripped through her silently at first, then louder, deeper, until she couldn't breathe through it anymore. She didn't notice the man in the elevator's far corner until she stumbled backward, clutching her chest, and lost her balance. "Ah, careful." He caught her, but not before the both of them tumbled. Her shoulder hit his chest, his back slammed against the elevator wall with a dull thud, and they slid awkwardly into a half-seated tangle. They froze. Her eyes wide, his breath stuck. He was handsome, clearly Asian, Chinese, perhaps. With soft but serious features, a neat button-down shirt, and an air of quiet intelligence. He looked like the kind of person who read poetry in silence but never said a word unless he truly meant it. "Sorry," she stammered, sitting upright, cheeks burning as she adjusted her coat. "I didn't know, I didn't see you there." "It's okay," he replied, breathless, blinking. "I'm okay. Just surprised." They both slowly got up, brushing themselves off, stealing awkward glances at each other like two strangers who had just danced on accident. Then the lights flickered. The elevator jolted. And stopped. Uriella gasped. She turned to the panel, pressing buttons. Nothing responded. The floor indicator was frozen on 7. "Oh no," she whispered. "Looks like it's jammed," the man said, pressing the intercom and getting static in return. He checked his phone. No signal. She slid down the wall and sat on the floor, her legs folded to her chest. Her cheeks were streaked with the remnants of her tears, her breathing shallow. The man hesitated, then sat down across from her, his back against the opposite wall. Silence stretched between them. 5 minutes. 10. 15. Finally, in a gentle voice, he spoke. Are you any better now? She looked up, startled. What? After crying for so long, he gave a small smile. I hope it helped, even a little. She laughed, but it came out hollow. Not really. Crying only reminds me I'm still capable of feeling this hurt. He nodded. That makes sense. You don't even know me, she said, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. True, he admitted. But sometimes people speak better in silence. She looked at him properly now. What's your name? Yichen. Uriella Zulieka, she offered, quietly. He nodded. A beautiful name. Something about his voice soothed her. She let the quiet linger before speaking again. I was dating someone. A Korean guy. Charismatic, charming, but a mess. She swallowed. I stayed. Even when I found kiss stains on his shirts. Even when he'd sneak out for phone calls and come home late. Even when he said, she paused, then whispered, no one will love you like I do. Yichen's brows furrowed. I believed him, she continued. Because I was afraid. I'm 27. Most of my cousins are married. My friends are raising babies. I didn't want to be left behind. His voice was soft. And yet, you left him. I walked into his office and saw him with someone else. He didn't even care enough to lie. Yichen leaned his head against the wall, sighing. Some people only understand value after they lose it. She looked at him, studying his eyes. What about you? Ever loved anyone? He gave a soft laugh. Honestly? No. I've been too shy, I guess. I work in cybersecurity. I like silence. I'm not great with bold moves. Uriella smiled through her tears. That's oddly refreshing. They laughed, lightly, sincerely. The elevator, still unmoving, seemed to wrap them in a gentle cocoon. In that tiny space, their hearts aligned. Then, ding. The lights blinked. The door slid open. They both blinked at the sudden brightness of the corridor. Yichen stood first, then reached a hand out to her. She took it. As they stepped out, both hesitated. Uriella glanced up at him, reluctant to break the spell. Well, thank you. For listening. He nodded, but inside, his heart was racing. He'd never been the kind to ask for a number. Never even tried. But something in him screamed, do it now. Or lose her forever. He fumbled slightly, then said, can I? I mean, maybe we can talk again? Coffee or something? She smiled. I'd like that. By a twist of fate, or maybe divine mischief, their offices were just 2 buildings apart. They saw each other often. It began with coffee during breaks. Then shared lunches. Then laughter over texts at midnight. Yichen was steady, thoughtful, never once making her feel like she had to earn his affection. He listened. He remembered things. And slowly, Uriella started to feel whole again. A few weeks have passed. Uriella and Yichen had become inseparable, but in a way that felt unspoken, sacred. It was never loud, never rushed. It unfolded like morning light through lace curtains. They shared lunch breaks 3 times a week, always returning to the same small restaurant tucked between their offices. It was barely more than a hole in the wall, with a single owner and mismatched chairs, but the miso soup was perfect and the table in the back by the window became theirs. They sat across from each other, knees occasionally bumping beneath the table. Uriella would chatter easily, laughing over work stories and childhood memories, while Yichen listened, smiling, nodding, sometimes even blushing when she caught him staring a little too long. One afternoon, she caught him halfway through reaching for his phone, then pulling back quickly and pretending to check his watch instead. "Were you about to call me?" she asked with a teasing lilt. He stiffened, cheeks turning a deep shade of red. Maybe. I thought about it." "You think about calling, but you never do," she said, leaning on the table, chin propped up in her hand. "Are you always this shy?" Yichen looked down at his miso soup as if it had all the answers. "Yes." She giggled. "I figured." He glanced up at her, and for a second there was something new in his eyes, something wondering, searching, hopeful. "You make it easy to talk," he said quietly. "But the words still get stuck." "That's okay," Uriella whispered. "I hear them anyway." She didn't know exactly when the shift happened, when her heart stopped checking for messages from Moon Seojun, stopped comparing everyone else to the idea of what love should have looked like. All she knew was that when Yichen walked beside her, she didn't feel behind anymore. She felt enough. It was the little things. But they felt really big. The way Yichen waited outside her building with her favorite steamed buns on rainy mornings. The way Uriella brought him little folded notes in his lunch bag, quotes from books, sometimes silly stick figure drawings of him being too shy to function. The way their hands brushed but never quite held. One evening, after a particularly stressful day, Uriella had texted, "Life's hard today. Can you talk?" Yichen didn't call, he still couldn't bring himself to do that, but 15 minutes later, she heard a knock on her apartment door. There he stood, holding a small brown bag. Inside was hot odin, neatly packed. "I didn't know what to say," he murmured, eyes soft behind his glasses, "so I thought maybe soup could talk for me." She opened the door wider, heart swelling. "You're ridiculous," she said, trying not to grin. "Come in." They sat on her couch, eating in comfortable silence. At one point, their knees touched. Neither of them moved. Yichen had never been in love before. He hadn't said the words. He hadn't even admitted it to himself fully. But he knew it the way he knew he needed to breathe. He knew it when she laughed with her whole body. He knew it when she looked at him like he was safe. He knew it when she teased him, when she challenged him, when she gave him the space to be soft. But still, he was shy. Sometimes he'd write texts and delete them before sending. "I miss you. Can I take you out? You looked beautiful today." Gone before they ever left his screen. Uriella noticed. But she didn't rush him. She teased. She laughed. She let him unfold at his own pace. It was raining when it happened. They had just left their favorite cafe. Uriella didn't have an umbrella, and Yichen, ever prepared, offered his. But instead of simply holding it over her, he stepped closer, their shoulders touching as they walked together beneath the small cover. Neither of them said anything for a while. Then, softly, Yichen asked, "Do you ever think about that elevator?" She looked up at him, surprised. "All the time." "I was terrified," he admitted. "Terrified of saying the wrong thing. Of being seen." She smiled. "But you were the only one who really saw me." The rain pattered around them. He stopped walking. Turned to face her. "I still don't know the right words," he said, voice trembling. She reached up, brushing a raindrop from his brow. "Then don't say them. Just show them." He did. Slowly, tentatively, he reached for her hand, and this time, she let him hold it. Not brushed. Not bumped. Held. Their fingers intertwined, like two puzzle pieces that had finally, after a long journey, found their way home. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon when Yichen's phone buzzed on the corner of his desk. He was deep in code, glasses slightly tilted, when the intern from HR poked her head into the room. Yichen, she said, half grinning. Your girlfriend is here. Waiting in the lobby. His fingers froze on the keyboard. My what? The HR girl raised an amused brow. Your girlfriend. She's really pretty. Thought I'd give you a heads up. Yichen stared at her like the words had malfunctioned. I don't have a girlfriend. But something in his chest sparked. Uriella. He stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his chair, and made his way to the front lobby with mechanical steps. As he turned the corner, he saw her, standing near the glass door, scanning the hallways like someone just wanting to say a quick hello. His heart did something wild. But his stomach dropped. She was here. At his office. Where people saw. She smiled when she saw him, lifting a hand in greeting. Hey. Behind him, two coworkers whispered something and chuckled. He flushed scarlet. Without thinking, he strode up to her, placed a hand on her arm, and gently, but swiftly, pulled her toward the exit. Wait, what, Yichen? Let's talk outside, he murmured, avoiding her eyes. Once they were a few feet from the glass doors, he turned to her, voice low, nervous fingers tightening in his sleeves. Uriella, you shouldn't have come here. Her brows furrowed. I just wanted to say hi. I brought you lunch. I thought it might make your day better. He looked away. It's not that I don't appreciate it, people will talk. They'll assume we're dating. She blinked. Aren't we? She asked, half teasing, half genuine. Yichen panicked. I mean, not officially. And my colleagues, they don't know. I don't talk about things like that. It's complicated. His words stumbled out like falling marbles. Uncontrolled. Messy. Uriella stood still. The bag of lunch was still in her hand. Slowly, she lowered it. Her smile faded. I see, she said softly. Please don't take it the wrong way, he added quickly, his voice strained with anxiety. It's not about you, it's me. I just don't want them thinking things. I've never dated. I don't know how to. But she was already a few steps away, her posture stiff, her eyes looking anywhere but at him. It's okay, Yichen. I understand. He felt the shift like a cold wind. Something small between them cracked. Uriella didn't cry on the way home. But she didn't smile either. She sat at the edge of her bed, staring at the untouched lunch she'd brought for him, replaying his words over and over. People will talk. They'll assume we're dating. Not officially. Her ex's voice echoed in the crevices of her mind, sharp and cruel. No one will love you like I do. You're not the type someone shows off. You're just there. She squeezed her eyes shut. Yichen was not like Moon Seojun. He wasn't cruel. He didn't lie. But the shame she felt, that invisible weight that came from always being the one who loved harder, pressed against her ribs like stone. And it hurt. Not because he didn't love her back, but because he was too afraid to let the world know he did. Days passed. They still texted. But the warmth was missing. Yichen sensed the shift. He noticed the shorter replies. The lack of emojis. The quiet. And he hated himself for it. He wanted to fix it. But how? He'd never had to show up for someone like this before. Vulnerability had always terrified him. And now, he was losing her not because he didn't care, but because he didn't know how to show he cared. One night, he sat at his desk, typing the same message for the 7th time. I'm sorry if I hurt you. Backspaced. You mean something to me. Backspaced. I was wrong. He stared. Then finally, with trembling fingers, typed. Can I see you? Please. Sent. Yichen stood nervously outside Uriella's apartment building, holding a warm box of takeout in a brown paper bag. He had finally mustered the courage to visit her unannounced, not with the intent to talk, not just yet, but simply to say, I was thinking about you. The rain had softened into a light mist, the street lamps casting golden halos on the pavement. His heart thudded in that shy, unsure way it always did around her. He was about to reach for the buzzer when a sleek black car turned slowly into the driveway. Something about it made Yichen freeze. The engine purred to a stop, and the driver's door opened with a quiet click. A tall man stepped out. Sharp jawline. Black trench coat. Neatly styled hair and an expensive watch catching the streetlight as he adjusted his collar. Seojun. Yichen didn't have to guess. It was in the confidence of his stride, the arrogance that oozed from every step. It was in the way he looked up at the building like he owned it. And it was in the pit of Yichen's stomach, a strange twist that told him, this is the man who hurt her. He quickly backed up, pressing himself slightly against the wall, the food still in his hand. His heart was pounding, but not out of fear, for her. Seojun moved to the entrance, pressed the buzzer. Waited. A pause. Then the door buzzed open, and he stepped inside like he belonged. Yichen stood still for a moment. Then slowly turned and walked away. On the other hand, Uriella opened the door, blinking in confusion. Seojun stood on the other side, wearing that crooked, practiced smile. You look surprised, he said, as if they were still something. I am, she replied. Her voice is steady, but inside her chest was an earthquake. I was in town. Thought I'd drop by. You could have called. I wanted to see you. He stepped inside, brushing past her. The smell of his cologne brought back memories she'd tried to bury. Late nights. Fights. Lies. You look good, he said, looking around the apartment. Healthier. Softer. She crossed her arms. What do you want, Seojun? He turned to face her, suddenly serious. I've been thinking about us. There is no us, she replied quickly. Uriella, he said, stepping closer. We had something real once. I was stupid. But I've changed. I want another chance. She laughed, but it wasn't joyful. You didn't even say sorry when I caught you cheating. You told me to leave. Like I was nothing. I panicked. I was immature. No, she cut him off. You were cruel. And now, you're bored. His eyes narrowed. Are you seeing someone? Silence. Uriella hesitated. She thought of Yichen, how he had pulled away, how he had told her not to show up at his work. How he hadn't called since. I don't know, she said finally. I thought I was. Yichen sat at his desk, the untouched takeout beside him. He had walked home in the rain, the bag warm in his hand but cold against his chest. He stared at his phone screen, thumb hovering over Uriella's name. Was he still there? Had she let him in? He hated the way it made him feel, jealous, insecure, like he had no right. But most of all, he hated that he hadn't said what she deserved to hear weeks ago. He had failed her, by being too afraid to be seen loving someone like her. And now? He might have lost his chance altogether.
If you like this story and want to follow up in it, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell. See you next episode.